Cool. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our Figma Draw office hours. I'm Lauren Bedorick. I'm the product and engineering lead on Figma Draw. Oops, clicked it. And I'm joined here today by designers Raji King and Tim Van Dam. And we're super excited to take a deep dive into our favorite draw features with you today. So some quick housekeeping. The session is being recorded, so this will be sent to your emails afterwards. Please use the Q&A button in the chat to submit questions. We have a couple other Draw teammates here, fellow engineers Shirley and Trevor on the Zoom today, and they're going to be helping us answer some Q&A too. And we'll be answering a few questions live at the end from those Q&A box. And another thing, make sure to have your chat set to everyone. And of course, please follow our code of conduct when engaging with hosts and other attendees. So if you tuned into Config London or Config in the US, you may have seen me, Tim, and Raji share a behind-the-scenes look at how and why we built Figma Draw. So today's session is going to be a little bit more focused on the actual features available in Draw and practical applications of how to use them. So we'll be going through what we built, and then Tim and Raji are going to demo some of their favorite Draw features and how those improve their respective workflows. And then, as I mentioned, we'll end with some live Q&A, so be sure to use that Q&A button. So let's dive in. Okay, cool. That's my favorite highlight video. So first, we're going to do an intro to Figma Draw. Figma Draw is a new view within Figma Design that you can access via a toggle in your toolbar. You can see it down here. And once you're in Draw, you'll notice there's quite a few differences to the UI. So first, the layers panel is more visual. We added these thumbnails to the layers panel, which allows you to see the previews in more detail, so you can really see like what layer you're selecting. And then we also introduced a new toolbar that puts illustration tools front and center. So in this toolbar, we also have, like when you click the brush tool or the pen tool or the pencil tool, we let you set the properties up front before you start drawing, which feels like a little bit more control over what you intend to draw. And finally, we realigned the properties panel to bring in more like bigger previews and sort of more tactile things like sliders to just like add some more visual information as you draw. So when it came to building new features in Draw, we aligned on two principles, efficiency and expressiveness. We wanted to make it easier to create and edit vectors in Figma, which is something that we've known was a little bit hard for a long time. But we also wanted to raise the ceiling in terms of what it's possible to create in Figma. So to improve efficiency while you're designing and editing vectors, we added some new tools like the Shape Builder tool, the Lasso tool, and Rotation Origin. We also made a number of improvements to vector edit mode, like being able to like multi-edit vectors, have multiple vectors in vector edit mode, improving Boolean operations and outline stroke, and then some smaller things like improving the mirroring behavior, making it so that delete and heal selects the next vertex, some changes to align and distribute, and also like tabbing to select the next geometry in vector edit mode, and even more. So we're hoping that these features make it faster and easier for you to manipulate vectors on the canvas in Figma. In terms of adding expressive features, we had a lot of fun with these. So this list here that you see includes some of our most used updates, which are progressive blur, brushes, and text on a path. We also added some more fun ones like pattern fill, radial and linear repeats, dynamic strokes, and noise and texture effects. We also mentioned at Config that variable width strokes will be coming soon, and we're excited to announce that that functionality will be available later this month. So stay tuned on that. Both the efficient and expressive features are what make Figma Draw such a powerful product for all types of designers. So we're going to transition into the fun stuff here, some demos from our designers, Raji and Tim, who are going to show you how they use how they use Draw features in their day-to-day workflows. So first off, I will pass it over to Tim. Oops. Tim will share screen.
Hey everyone, thanks for being here today. My name is Tim Van Dam. I'm a product designer on the Figma team. And in the past year, I've been working with these lovely people on Draw. Let me share my screen and we can get into it. All right, so welcome to my file. it's a bit of a mess. It's always a mess. Um, but what we're going to do today is like I kind of started working on this design for a creature creator. And the thinking is you can create and collect all kinds of cute sea animals and then maybe read a bit more about them. So here are a bunch of components I've set up. Zoom in a bit here. You see, everything is kind of in place. This looks okay, but obviously we can do a whole lot better using some of the new draw features, obviously. So at first, actually, let's take a step back and let's take a look at our icons. There aren't a lot yet, but how about we start by adding like a wave icon? Like the theme is, the ocean and the animals that live there. So a little wave icon to, I don't know what we can use it for, but like sooner or later, um, we might need that. I'm going to quickly, I used Shift P. You can see the shortcuts appear as I use them. I use a lot of them. So I'm going to use the pencil tool and let me just draw a line. Wait, you know what? We can do better than that because we have this at the bottom. I can now change the color beforehand and I am hand drawing part of a wave here. So let's take a peek here. This is nice. It doesn't really fit our like very geometric style that we've got going here. So let me double click to edit. Um, and there are a lot of points here. Sometimes it's too many, sometimes it's too little, but you can always go and manually tweak. So I select the point, I hold Shift and do delete, which then selects the next point, but I can tab through to the next. And you can kind of see as I, remove these, everything smoothens out real nice. Um, just delete this one. Cool. So this is, it still has, the natural shape of water, but it's a bit more geometric. Now, I have a plan for this. I move it up a bit. Like, what if, let's use a linear repeat here. By default, it repeats that way, it's getting cut off. But let me change it to vertical. Let me change the gap to 2 maybe, and then 4. Yeah, 4 kind of fills this out nicely. So with the help of repeater, I was able to kind of not just quickly repeat this, but it also allows me to kind of explore like, oh, the padding and the amount of times I want to repeat it in a non-destructive way. I don't have to do a whole lot of manual work. But I do think for the next part, I want to do some manual work. So right now, this is one object repeated. If I want to kind of like edit the individual wavy lines, I can go over to the top right here and click on apply. And what apply does is instead of one object, we now have 4 wavy objects. So let's get to work here. I'm going to use a couple of different tricks here. I'm going to select the second and the fourth, and then I'm going to do Shift H, flip them over horizontally, and sure, we can do something with this. So let's set them off a bit this way. Let's select the others, select them off that way a bit. Cool. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Move it over, and now actually, I don't like these bits sticking out. Let me double click on the first one here and remove these points. And then um, I could like one at a time hop between them in edit mode, so I don't have to leave edit mode anymore. But I can hold Command, click on this one, click on that one, and click on that one. Or while I'm editing, I can just hold Command Shift, click, and now every single one that I click, I can start working on, which is great. There's still 4 different objects, but it speeds up my workflow. Um, Let me speed up myself a bit. Um, Let me use the new lasso tool to kind of select some of the bits that I might want to reuse. It's very simple. You just kind of like drag and select whatever in the middle there. So we have this. Balance it out a bit. There we go. I'm going to union them. Um, Union is one of the four Boolean operations that we support. They used to be a little bit hidden, but if you're in draw mode, they are right here at the bottom. I can click it here, but my favorite way of doing this is still using a shortcut. So I'll hold Option Shift U, and now they're all inside one union, still four different objects that I can go edit, very non-destructive. Let me hide our icon guide. And here, let me quickly set up a fill and an effect. So now we have a wiggly wave icon. Um, but as you might notice, this corner is empty. I want to have a explore icon here. And I was thinking about like, all right, what could an explore icon, what could that look like? And because again, we're the theme is water, I thought like, how about like a nice swirl? Um, and in the most geometric way as possible. So I came up with this trick I'm gonna try and replicate here. So if I start by drawing a circle, a regular circle, I think it could be a bit bigger like this. And then I apply a radial repeat on this. Let me go tweak, something like this. Actually, instead of units, I'm going to switch over to pixels. It gives me a little bit more control here. Now, as you can see, actually, if I change the transparency, the opacity, as you can see, this circle is rotated radially. All right, this is cool. Now, for my favorite bit, let me apply this transform, and now I have 6 different objects here. Um, Obviously, this is not, we can't do anything. Our style is like very strokey, but I did this for a reason. So if I hit return right now, I'm editing all 6 of them because we have a multi-vector edit. And I'm gonna use the shape builder tool here, and just select. Let me see what I'm gonna do. Kind of click here and drag. As you can see, like it joins all those parts in a really nice way. Super, super easy, super powerful as well. Like once you start combining these new vector edit abilities, you can get some really cool results. And then for the middle one, I'm just going to hold Option and click and remove it. Hit Escape. Now it has a fill set. If I do another shortcut, here we go, Shift X. Shift X swaps strokes and fills, but it keeps the color. So now let's take a look at the side panel. Draw has, I think this might be one of my favorite draw features, which is this new stroke panel, and it allows me to set like where the stroke sits, the end caps, which don't really apply here, the joints and the end caps. But what I want to do is set back the opacity to 100, something like this. And now we have a beautiful swirly icon. Again, let me union them. Let me set a proper color. Let me set the effects. There we go. Let me hide our little guide. And we have a swirly explore icon, which is now visible here. All right, that was a lot of vector editing. I love making icons, so I'm like really excited every chance I have to show these features off. All right, let me introduce you to the hero of our design here, Mr. Inky. Mr. Inky is a squid or an octopus. I keep mixing them up. I looked it up and I forgot again. But it's a very clean shape. It's very clean, very simple, and I want to add some texture to this. I feel like I do this every demo, but like I love doing it, and that is not a lie. So let's add some texture to Mr. Inky here. Let me drop it down a bit because this might be a bit too aggressive. Yeah, that looks cool. And then for the little spots on his head, I thought like, what if like, they're nice spots, but what if we add some noise to it to kind of add a bit more depth to it. Let me see. Oh, that's not. How's this going? Oh, hold on. Hold on, hold on. We're gonna see this. No, we're not. Hmm. Oh, I'm a dum-dum. I was working on the wrong part of the Boolean. Let me restart. Add some noise. There we go. Now we can kind of see what we're doing. Um, so let me play with the size a bit, play with this, and we just brought more texture to those little spots. Um, I'm reusing this component here for a little up-down animation. Um, Spoiler, there's going to be a reveal at the end which has animations. And now you can see that Inky has like a bit more texture here. Now, obviously, we can't stop there. Like, Inky has texture, but everything else is it's a bit too tight, a bit too many straight lines. So let's go to the components that we're using for the God, what is that? I don't know how to describe it. It's like when you're underwater and you look upwards and the sun is hitting the waves, you get this beautiful shimmer. It's called shimmer. So let's start working on that one. I have this object in two states, which will allow it to rotate in the end. And how these are composed, I have the kind of like the white rays, um, which with a radial repeat, I've laid out like this. So I only have one thing I need to edit. And then I have the same for the black one here. To get started, let's see. I've already added progressive blur here. So I'm going to cheat and open that up. And what that does is it keeps things sharp in the middle, but then, as you progress towards the end, it kind of gets blurrier and blurrier. Let me quickly do the same here. There we go. And I can play with this. I can increase or decrease these effects as much as I want to. But for now, let's go back to where we were. And this is cool, but like underwater, like those rays will never look this perfect. So we came up with the idea of adding a bit of texture. And it seems simple, like you just add one effect and you kind of get this, which is very random and natural feeling. But that's, I think, the beauty of these features. You can just play with it and kind of see, like, all right, how far do we want to push this, or how gentle, like how light do we want to keep this? This starts getting a bit weird. So let me put it back to kind of what it was. So now we've done that. So what does that look like? Ooh, all right. This is looking pretty damn good. But again, we can do more. We can always do more. Let me see. Let me see. So here I had the idea of adding a bit of a pattern fill. So we're not going for a realistic look here, obviously, with the purple, and Yankee doesn't really look real. But I want to add I don't know, almost like you're in a Disney movie kind of deal. So I want to add I'm going to add a quick pattern background here. So from the drop down, I no longer have to go through the solid one and then change the solid fill to a different type. I can just go straight to pattern, select my source, and then select this absolutely stunning pattern that I've made. But the pattern is very simple, but the cool thing happens when you start tiling it and work a bit like this. Let me see. It's a bit too much. Let's do this. And then since it's set to plus lighter, it kind of really blends in nicely with the background here. Okay, but we're not done yet. I want to add some texture here. What are we going to do here? Let's play with it for starters. What can we do? Oh, you can kind of see it appear. You see it here. What are we going to do here? Maybe 5. What does that look like? Okay. Is that too much? Too little? Yeah. This, I think before it was a bit too much, and this is kind of subtle towards the edges right here. Okay. It already feels like completely different from what we had. Now, at the bottom, you can see you have Inky's biography here. But it kind of like I added a fade towards the end, so it kind of disappears underneath the continue reading button. But I do think we could definitely use some progressive blur here to kind of mask it more and more as you get towards the end. So let me add a background blur here. And instead of uniform, which makes it clip off, I'm going to use progressive again, the same trick that we used for the rays. And let me see, how do we want this to end? Something like this. Yeah, I think this looks nice. Um, and then as promised, I said there was going to be an animation. Again, I did some work beforehand, but I used our prototyping features in combination with these new draw features. And if all goes well, this should look very interesting. It's loading. Oh, hold on. Let me reload. Try that again. Yeah, here we go. So as you can see, the rays kind of move around. I made the white rays move a little bit slower than the black rays, so they kind of overlap and kind of randomize. You can see Inky moving up and down slowly. And then at the bottom here, I thought it'd be super cool if you can hit continue reading, but what if you swipe up? Oops, what if you swipe up? There we go. Um, the biography comes up here, and then you can hit close, and then Inky comes back. You want to read? You want to close? So anyway, thanks for listening, and thanks for all the love you gave Inky. I hope you're having a great day, and let me pass it on to Raji now.
Tim, that was fantastic. I loved it. And also so soothing. You were like the Bob Ross of UI design. I saw in the chat that everyone was like, "Oh, it's so calming and so mesmerizing." My apologies ahead of time. I am not as calming, so I'll try to keep excited though. That's kind of the tone. And let's get started. So here we go. All right. Oh, let's see if we can not share my whole screen. That'd be nice. Okay, so first of all, my favorite thing about developing features and the work that we've done here is not doing what we can do, but seeing what you can do. And so I just took I kind of been watching mostly on Twitter, but like all the different cool things that people have created with our brushes, pattern fills, repeaters, texture effects, like so many different very cool things. And just shout out to you for just creating with our tools and creating amazing new things that we never thought possible with Figma, but now is possible today. And it's only been a little bit, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. So I'm going to walk through my end. My kind of thing is illustration. I've loved art ever since I was a kid. And so we're going to jump right into, using some of these tools from that context, illustration and brand. And so we'll start very simply. I know Tim already did this a little bit, but we'll just talk about the texture effect. Some of these we'll show a full composition. Some will just show kind of the raw basics of the tool. And that way you can kind of take that learning with you and apply it to greater things. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to drop this down and do texture. And we're going to do it on a little simple circle. We can make this kind of roughen and wobbly, or we can actually blow this out and take the size down and we'll get something like a grainy gradient. So lots of different applications of this roughening, just doing some simple, subtle sort of hand-drawn, break up the clean lines kind of a thing. And of course, you can do this on text as well. So I'm just going to take this and copy it and paste it and add it here. Let's see. Oh, I've already got one. And you can see here that I've added it to kind of like make this text a little bit wobbly. And of course, I can just type into it and it'll still work. So it's sort of an effect on something. It's non-destructive. Another thing that we can do with this is texture works really well over color variations. So if I turn off the texture effect, you'll see that we just have a simple gradient in the background. And this is super powerful. I'll show some more about this later. But once I add the texture effect, I can actually create graininess and texture over this this simple background color. Now, the key here is using clip to shape. If I unclip that, you'll see that it just obliterates the object. But in this case, I can clip to shape and you can see that it creates this amazing little transition. Now, this works also over drop shadows. I've got a drop shadow and I add a texture. This works over this works over gradients as we've shown. So here with inner shadows. So in this case, I had gradients before. In this case, I have inner shadows. I have a few of them layered up. And if I turn them off, you'll see what happens. So we can create sort of a grainy gradation. This will also work over just simple color variations. So in this case, I've got a couple of vector objects and I'm going to add a texture effect to it. And I'm going to click clip to shape. And I'm going to bump the radius up and bump the size up. And we can see now we can quickly get something more of a hand-drawn feel here. So basics of textures. And we'll show some better illustrations with those in just a second. All right. So now moving on to brushes. Brushes are super cool. I love brushes. We see this illustration made by our very own Tammy using brushes, but a few basics about brushes. One, you can actually come in and use the brush tool, choose your brush. We have a lot of brushes here. And you can also hold Option and drag. And when you hold Option and drag, you'll see that that brush gets bigger or smaller. And you can just draw in. You can also connect your iPad to your computer and draw that way if it feels a little bit more hand-drawn. I happen to be using a mouse right now. And so maybe it feels a little bit unnatural to do that. But the other great thing about brushes is that you can also just select a group. And in this case, I've got a group, this little leaf fern thing. And because it's a group and it has a bunch of different brushes in it or a bunch of different lines in it, I see the brush in the sidebar when I'm in draw mode. And I can actually just hover over and change the brushes here to change up that look and feel. I could also choose individual vector lines and change the brushes up. But this way we can see it's super powerful and I can actually change this up quite a bit. Now I can also create brushes. So let's say I wanted to take the pencil tool and I just want to make this a little bit bigger and maybe just put in some funky blobs. Maybe I have a vector object that is a brush that I want to use. I can do that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to flatten this vector. Right now it's just a stroke, but if I flatten it, I'm sorry, I'm going to outline the stroke. So we'll go there, we'll go to outline stroke, that'll create a vector object. And if I right click and go to create brush, stretch brush, it's our current kind of brush, I can now apply that to different things. So say if I've got this really cool illustration here, where I've got some brush work in it, some cool lighting. I'm using brushes to mask off some of the face here. If I come in here, I can actually see that I've got this new one here that's using my new shape. If I want to rename that, I can always go back in, rename it. I'll just call this Blobby. Maybe that's what I want to call it. And I can change the size of that as well. So I can change the size of this brush. Now, don't worry, if you hit the end here, you can always go higher. So we'll go a little bit higher here and make this a little bit more blobby, as well as, like I said, I'm using a lot of brush strokes as a mask for this person's face. So I can actually change that here. So I can change up my masking here and use my brushes in tandem with this. All right, we're also going to talk about dynamic strokes. And now dynamic strokes are really cool. Brushes are pretty intentional. You're going to add them to specific lines, to specific shapes, and it's a little bit more of a intentional process, whereas dynamic strokes were made for that really quick hand-drawn feel. So let's first just start by drawing a vector line here, and I'll show you how this works. So I've got this vector line. I'm going to bump up the stroke. I love these sliders because I can just do this on canvas. I can see how big they are, and I'm going to change this down just a bit, and I'm going to go change this to a dynamic stroke, and you can see that all of a sudden we have some wiggle to it. We have frequency. That's how much it's going to show up, how many wiggles on the line, and wiggle is how far it wiggles. So this is like basically a random thing. So we can get a kind of like a little rough wobbly stroke here. We can also make it smooth or rough. So if you wanted more of like a rough feel for a Wild West poster or something like that, we could do that. Or in this case, we've got just something that's just a little bit wobbly. It looks a little bit more hand drawn. And so we're going to do that here with this. This is sort of like the old world of Figma. This is how somebody might draw a cool little bunny on a skateboard. And I'm going to add a dynamic brush to this and just do this, like change up these different values here. In this case, let's try this. I must have had a dynamic stroke on it before. So I'm going to check a few things. I think I just got a few things messed up about the stroke. Let's try this again. We've got this mixed, so I'm going to try one more time to do this. All right, we'll see what we can do now. I think what I've got is something in here that is a shape and maybe some different brushes. So here we go. We've got this and we can move the lines. Sorry, my demo kind of fell apart on us here, but I'll just edit this one line for now. Edit the thickness, edit this, and we can get that wiggly wobbly line. But we've got plenty more features to show. Okay, so I mentioned that I really love seeing stuff on the community, and I've noticed a few things out there, and I wanted to walk through some of those. One of those was this here. We've got progressive blur on either end. We've got a little bit of texture creating this graininess, but also we've got a dynamic stroke on this line. And we can see that if we adjust this line here, we have the line behind it. And then also we have a line in front of it. So let me go to that line in front of it. Let me see if I can click that. And it's right. I think I've got it right here. And if I change it, you can see that I'm changing up this with all the effects and everything on it. So maybe I'm creating some kind of a spark line or something cool like this. I can use dynamic strokes for this in a really new and interesting way. Also, this is just a line that I've added some gradients to, a little bit of light to it. And if I add a layer blur to it and then texture to it, I'm going to do this and unlock each one of these, just like Tim. I've set these up in advance. And we can see that we already have what looks like lightning on something. And I never anticipated this, but it's so very cool. And just for your sake, we've got this tutorial. Praha on Twitter actually shared this, just showing you how to create this little like amazing little aesthetic for lightning. I'm going to talk a little bit more about patterns. Tim showed a little bit, but I'm going to recreate the famous Overlook Hotel pattern from The Shining. So let's jump right into this one. So I've already got a few of the things created for myself. So I've got a couple of polygons. I used our polygon tool here to be able to create them. So we won't recreate those, but what we'll do is come in, I'm going to add a new fill, and I'm going to create a pattern fill. And I'm going to set the opacity to 100 on it. And I'm going to select the source of this frame. Now, I like using frames because I can edit anything or add new things within them, but pattern sources will work on anything, any layer on the canvas. So immediately I have something that looks okay, but it looks nothing like the actual Overlook Hotel pattern. But what I love about pattern fill is that you can actually edit these things and they all live update. So one thing I know that I'm missing on this pattern fill is I'm missing a line. I'm actually just missing a simple line right here, and I'm adding it in. You can see the pattern update. And I love this sort of nature of like editing on canvas and seeing it update. And so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go ahead and sample this color here. I want that color. And I happen to know that the stroke weight on this should be 16. This is all looking really good. I'm going to bring this down just a bit. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to go back into my pattern again, and I'm going to change it to a hexagonal pattern, which kind of fits for the vibe. And I'm going to create it downward. Now we're almost there. And now I can adjust the spacing. So I can adjust the X spacing, the Y spacing. Now these kind of work in tandem with each other, but we can see just with a few clicks here, I've already got something that looks a lot like this. I've got a couple of values to probably nudge up and down to see, like maybe I need a little bit more equidistant gap. I want to take this and make this a little bit bigger so it connects. But already just like that, we have that pattern. All right, now I'm not going to go through everything on this. I'm using some patterns. I'm using texture. For instance, I can take this and I can click this on and off. But if you're familiar with Figma, you can also add variables to this. So I've actually used color variables here. In this case, I have a shadow variable. I have an iris, an eye background variable. And With this, we can actually create different color variations and different modes for our illustration work. Maybe we wanted like a dark mode illustration for some kind of empty state. I'm going to go here, change the appearance to dark. And just like that, I've switched all my colors out to this new mode, which is super cool. All right. A couple of things I want to talk about. This is my style here. This is the kind of style I love. I love like this really cartoony look. And this is a very real illustration that I created to demo our features. And I've got a couple of things that I want to do with this. And this is all very real workflow for me. For one, I've got this here, this little horn, and I want to rotate it. But I'm finding that like when I rotate it, that's not really how I want it to rotate. I want it to kind of rotate around a different point. If I hold Option R or press Option R, we'll see our rotation origin, and I can now change this. So maybe I can change this to rotate around that point. That's a little bit more of what I'm looking for. I can, of course, move this up here. Also, in this situation, sometimes I'll have a stroke that I lay down like this, but I also have another stroke here, and I kind of want to align them or snap them. So what I'm going to do here is hold Command and select this, and then hold Shift and select this one as well. And now in Figma, we can edit multiple vectors at once. So when I hit Return, I'm now editing both at once. And so I can actually take this and drag this, and it'll snap to this line, which is something you couldn't do with multiple vectors in Figma before, and I love it. And one other feature I'm going to tease out is our variable width stroke feature. Now that's not coming. It's coming a little bit later here this month, but I wanted to show you because you'll see that a lot of these strokes are tapering. They feel a little bit more they were drawn like they were drawn like with a pen or something with variable pressure. And I'll show editing this one just now. So if I come into here, you won't be able to see this tool right now, but soon you will. And we'll be able to take this and edit this variable width point. And I'll give you another demo of this in just a bit. So great, couple of new features for you that could really help. Now let's talk about text on a path, and let's talk about repeaters in this kind of brand context. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to create all of these signs and put all of them on here. And this looks really daunting. And I've got a line in here that I've created for the text to go along. It's just a circle object. But what I want to do is actually put the text on it. So I'm going to choose my text tool. And one thing you'll notice is like, I don't see an ability to add it. And that's because this is deeply nested inside of the layers. But in Figma, if you hold Command, you can actually deeply select anything. And it also works with the text on the path tool. So I'm actually going to click this here, and I'm actually going to copy this text before I do it. Show you a couple of cool things. One, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to take my text and I'm going to add it. And I'm going to add all the text in. Now, this is maybe not how you would do it, but I wanted to show a few features here. We can center align this, and we can left align this. So we actually have our handle here on the left. We can center align it. We can right align it. We can also flip it inside the path if you'd like. Let's actually do this like this. We can also be outside of the path. So definitely play with all of these options over here in the typography panel, because it's going to help you be able to add these things as you want to. So I'm going to flip this back. Here's something really cool about this feature. Using justify when you're in this text on a path will actually justify all of and equally distance all of your words. It also works with letters as well. So if you wanted to just type in Aries, notice that it actually broke up and equally spaced out all of my letters. And this could be really helpful and really handy for a lot of different things. Now, because all these words are different lengths, we're going to do something a little bit different here. The first thing I'm going to do is just go to center alignment, go back here, and I'm going to align this thing to the center. And then what I'm going to do is use a repeater for this. I'm going to use this. I'm going to click radio repeat. And right now the repeat is very large. So I'm going to click it and say, I want a gap of 0. And this is going to create a repeat all around and perfectly spaced. And of course I can drag here, and now I can see all of these. I believe there's 12. So there we go. We've got all of these. Now, if I want to individually edit these, what I'll do up here is click apply, and this will create separate layers for each one. And we'll see that we have separate layers for each one. And now I can actually go type in my values there. Super handy stuff. Using all these features together is so fun. Also, speaking of repeaters, you can do stuff like this. Like, let's turn on this repeater, and we've got this amazing look already. I don't know what I'm creating, but it's fun. It's so playful. And maybe I want to like adjust the radius of this or rotate within the repeater. And we can see there's a lot of explorations that we could do just using repeaters alone. Now, remember I said at the beginning when I started that I love looking at what the community does, and I love seeing the different ways that they're doing things. And I found this really cool example online from Lucia Scarlett. Now, she's created this like amazing looking like cloud. And I kind of went through this and broke this apart, looked at her layers, and I realized that it's just a group with a bunch of different like blobs and shapes in it. And we put a layer blur on it. Now, that doesn't look exactly like a cloud. It looks like a cloud that needs just a little bit more help. But if we add texture to this, we can see that it sort of bangs up the edges. And with that layer blur, it actually really helps it to look like a cloud. If I turn the layer blur off, it looks like this, but it looks really like a cloud now. And I could add some noise to it. Or maybe I wanted to add like a little storm cloud, like darker bottom to it. All these features work really well together. So I'm creating like a storm cloud bottom, but maybe I want a little sun coming from the top. We've all had those days. And so I've added another little inner shadow of yellow here where it's kind of glinting off the top and reflecting off the top. And we can, of course, play with the position of that, like the Y position or the X position to see where the light may be coming from. But I thought this was such a cool example of bending our features and combining them into something really, really cool. And now just a few more demos, really small, really quick and easy. Another one I saw is this demo by Cubic. Now, I think we've all seen this. And if you haven't, basically we have a background blur on this rectangle and it's cool, right? It looks like we've created a little foggy glass window that you can kind of see the cat through. But if we actually add texture to this, this was such a cool demo where you can actually see that it looks like almost like a marbled glass or like those old shower doors where you can't really see through. And I can't wait to see what people end up doing with this, creating really interesting UI effects and things like that. Another good example of this is Eamon, who created this amazing sort of abstract art with texture. And I made mine a little bit cleaner, but basically just using some components, using the texture effect, I was able to actually create some really interesting effects and gradations over these gradients, as I call them, gradients. And it's as simple as this. I just took a couple of different colors and then put them in blocks, put them in the component, and then added texture to texture the gradation between them. I won't demo this one, but more texture stuff, more fun stuff, creating this sort of, I don't know what it is exactly, but it looks cool and I like it. Yeah. And then lastly, this is something I worked on internally. I got really inspired by this artist named Meg, who has this incredible stylization on a Severance fan art, which I love. And so I created this little goat, and I thought it was so fun. I thought it was so fun, just like working with this, like these primitive tools, and then sort of building them up to create really a cool aesthetic. And this is using dynamic strokes. This is using variable width strokes. This is using texture effect. Just a quick peek here. It's just a little round gradient here, a little circular radial gradient. And then I add texture to it. The same with the horns, everything like that. And then a couple of fun little variable width features here, like this one here. I wanted to create like a goat eye that looks like a goat eye. And so I did this and I was able to get like a really cool look, but with a really editable stroke. I can still move the stroke. It's still very controllable. It still has 2 points. Anyways, that's what I've got for y'all. We'll be here for the questions. Thank you so much for watching.
Cool. Those are awesome demos. So we are going to go into a little Q&A session here, and have a couple people, a feul of our engineers join us to answer some questions. So I will let Shirley take this question.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley. I'm an engineer on the Draw team, and I mostly worked on a number of features like effects and repeaters. And for this question, are we planning on adding more brush properties or adding a custom DIY brush settings for customization? The short answer is We are, and you should stay tuned. We're working on adding a second brush type on top of the current set of brushes that we have. And then for the first part of this question, we actually already allow you to create custom brushes. You can right click or quick command on a vector or any shape object, and that will turn it into a custom brush.
Cool. Thanks, Shirley. For the next question, I'm going to have Trevor answer this.
Sweet. Hey everyone, my name is Trevor, also an engineer on the team. And yeah, I really love this question from Gabby, I think because all of the features I had a lot of fun adding because of the challenges and complexities we ran into. A lot of the small things like with pattern fills, making sure that when you modify the pattern source that it live updates wherever using the pattern, or for example, with noise and texture effects, working with all like the gritty math and random numbers. I really enjoyed those small parts, and it was just really awesome to work on that. And then once we released it to everyone, seeing all the different ways that I could have never even imagined y'all using the feature was really fulfilling.
Yeah, those were extremely challenging for the team. For this question, I can go ahead and answer. I think there were several questions about tablet support, drawing tablets, iPads. So as you know, as we mentioned, we're releasing variable width stroke later this month. And that will include pressure sensitivity on drawing tablets. So that includes like your Wacom tablets or other drawing tablets. You can also use iPad in some kind of limited way. Like, for example, right now you can sidecar your iPad. So if you have a Mac, you can use your iPad as an input device and just sort of like screen mirror to your iPad and draw on your Apple Pencil into Figma. But as far as full iPad support, that is something that we are thinking about and on our radar, but we don't have any updates coming super soon on that. And then this question too, I really liked. How do we decide what creative tools to add next? Our roadmap has always been a combination of all kinds of user feedback, and we find user feedback in all kinds of places. We find user feedback on Twitter or X. We find user feedback on Threads. We also find a lot of user feedback on the Figma forum. I would definitely encourage you to go to the Figma forum, forum.figma.com, and add any feature requests that you have, or search for feature requests that you might already resonate with and upvote those, because we certainly take into account, if there's a feature on the forum with hundreds of upvotes, then that is definitely a good way to like make it onto our roadmap. So we're always trying to think about what our users need, and what's sort of like the most powerful way to build those into Figma. Like something like the texture effect is a combination of several effects that we wanted to build in a way that's as flexible and as powerful as possible. So it can be like kind of a roughen effect. It can be kind of a grain effect. And so we're always kind of trying to think of what our users want, what aesthetics to enable, and like that we can enable with them, and how to make them really powerful. So again, please share your feedback. You can send it to our support teams. I definitely would love to see your forum requests. Twitter, X, whatever social media you use, we're listening to all of them. So we really appreciate all feedback. So that's all for our live stream today. Thank you so much for joining us. We really hope that you enjoy using Figma Draw. Like I said, we would love to hear as much feedback as possible, because we are constantly looking to improve. We sort of feel like we've only just gotten started. We have a lot that we still want to build. So thank you so much. And until next time, see you later.